I'll tell people you can have control or you can have growth. Like those are the ends of the spectrum. If you want 100% control, I guarantee you're not going to grow. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pick Now podcast. I am your host, Jeff Munn, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I want to introduce Michael Pickel. Michael owns a roofing company, has been a client, has gone through a lot of growth, both personally and with respect to the company. And Michael agreed to be a little bit of a guinea pig today and to come on and basically create what he wants to create for 2026. So this conversation will be as close to a coaching conversation as we can probably do on a podcast. So Michael, welcome. Thank you for volunteering for this experience. We'll see how it goes. How you doing right now?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Jeff. Excited to walk through this and, see how everything goes. It's going to be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
awesome. Um, so you and I started, and rough math, about a year ago. We worked roughly the first half of 2025 together. You had some stuff that you wanted to kind of focus on with your team. So we haven't really been talking for a while. How's it been going?
It's been going well. There's been a lot of clarity,
Good.
just in general. I historically would be a over analyzer,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted to analyze things. I wanted to process things. I was very um, slow to make the wrong mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel this latter half of the year, last several months, I think I've had a greater appreciation for some things that I was missing
Uh-huh.
in my desire to move really, really quick and really, really fast,
Uh-huh.
and realize that sometimes that can leave some dead bodies along the way. And that's not a good thing. You can
Yeah.
do it, but it may
Yeah.
not be a good thing. And I also realized that I was holding myself back in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways, uh, due to my overanalyzation and overthinking. So mentally, it's really fun. It's freeing. It's
Oh, that's
exciting.
great.
Feel really really rejuvenated. Um, you know, kind of it being the end of the year and the timing and everything right now is just a fun time. But I feel different than I feel like I felt in previous years. Just less of a burden and more freeing.
Awesome. So we started out pretty early in our relationship with a 2-day retreat in Denver.
Mhm.
Um, I get a lot of questions on those 2-day retreats because, I'll tell people something like, we'll do as little as possible and you'll have some amazing insights. And people don't, somehow they aren't satisfied with like, well, tell me more. Like there's
Mhm.
really no agenda. So you've gone through that, you know, tell the audience a little bit about your experience of that, and I might add a little color commentary here and there too.
Yeah. It was it was I felt a lot like that. I felt a lot
Uh,
like, oh, what are we going to do? What's the plan? What's the agenda? What are we going to walk through? What do you mean we're going to figure it out along the way? Just it felt very foreign.
huh.
But what wasn't foreign was I knew I wanted to do this. I was absolutely feeling that I needed to walk through a new experience that was outside my comfort zone. And um, the experience itself was eye opening in the fact that I would have never done anything like that. I would have never just walked in and said, let's just see what comes up. Let's
Uh-huh.
see what we talk about. It felt very natural. I mean, even just talking with you in general, it's just a conversation. And
Yeah.
we had a lot of really good conversations. And at the end of it, it felt as though we may have not done a whole lot,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it felt like there was so much that was accomplished.
Yeah. So what for you were one or two shifts that not only happened during those 2 days, but that you were able to take back to, your day job.
One was the realization that I'm actually getting in my own way. You've heard me say it a whole lot, and I'll probably say it several more times. But it was a realization that I'm slowing myself down in as a person who actually likes to move really, really fast and just make decisions and go. I was really slowing myself down and getting in my own way a whole lot.
Yeah.
Um, the other is I uh, I don't have to beat myself up along the way.
Hmm.
I remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
That I was coming to the realization that if I wasn't getting what I thought I wanted, if I wasn't accomplishing the things that I thought I was accomplishing, I needed to, toughen up and, kind of give myself some tough love and beat myself up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And that would excite me and encourage me and motivate me to go be better. And that was not healthy. It wasn't good. It wasn't fun.
I'm
Uh,
sure I mean, I've done the same thing. I've spent decades doing that, right?
yeah,
Like there's this idea somehow that beating yourself up is helpful. I don't know where it comes from.
I think we create it. I
Yeah.
mean, I created it. No one
Yeah.
taught me that.
Yeah.
No one told me in my life that I was a failure because I didn't accomplish a goal that I wanted to accomplish.
Hmm.
I just started creating that in my own head, and it felt really good to accomplish things.
Uh-huh.
And it really hurt and was painful when I didn't accomplish things. And so you go through these emotional highs and lows. And what I realized is you don't have to go to the lows. You don't have to go to the
Yeah.
depths of the lows
Yeah.
the way that I was kind of forcing myself into.
Yeah. I love that. So I remember you coming away with two main ahas, and the one was exactly, I'm too hard on myself. And the other one that I remember, and maybe that's the topic of the rest of this conversation, is I remember you saying, wow, I'm thinking way too small.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And it felt big,
Uh huh.
but you start to talk about it
Uh
and
huh.
you realize you're putting yourself in a corner.
Hmm.
You're boxing yourself in ways that you don't realize.
Right. I think there's this thought that I got to beat myself up. I've got to be hard on myself. I've got to be hard on my team. This has to be hard. And along with that is, we're going to grind and it's going to be slow and it's going to be tough and at some point we just think, "Hey, wait a minute. What if this could just be easy and fun?"
Yeah.
And that actually opens up more,
Yeah.
which is really counterintuitive for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think part of what you said, everyone wants to be a really good leader.
Mhm.
And when you say things like, I've got to be hard and we've got to grind and we've got to push the people and we've got to get people to do it a certain way. I tend to find that I was beating myself up because I wasn't doing those things. Oh,
Uh-huh.
now I'm not being a good enough leader because
Right.
I'm just being mean.
Right.
And I would, again, analyze and process, the
Right.
way in which I would have certain conversations. I go, oh, that was the wrong way to handle it. That was horrible. What have I done? I've torn this person down, or that's not the leader that I want to be. And I'm not being a consistent leader to
Right.
my organization and to my team. And those were ways that I was beating myself up, you
Mhm.
know?
Well, it's this weird cycle of like if the way we lead ourselves is to beat ourselves up, then naturally the way we're going to think about leading other people is to beat them up.
Yeah. And
And
I've never met a business owner that says that that's how they want to lead.
yeah,
I don't think I've met a leader.
or an employee who wants to be
Yeah.
led that way, right?
No, no.
Yeah.
And, you're going to struggle. I mean, we all struggle. We all make mistakes, but it's how you, um, it's just how you treat yourself through that process is how you grow and get better
Yeah.
um, through it. So
So here we are. It's just before Christmas as we're recording this. Um, bring us up to speed on where you are right now in as much detail as you want to share, and then let's go to 2026. And if you've flash forward to December 31st, 2026, what have you accomplished?
that's a good question. So I this year was a challenging year to
Hmm.
say the least. Just I think everything that I've seen, everything that I've read is 2025 was a lot of uncertainty. There
Yeah.
was economic uncertainty. There was political uncertainty. There was just uncertainty all over the place. And that caused, you go into the year with an expectation that things are going to go a certain way. And it wasn't necessarily a bad year. It was just a, a year that you didn't see coming.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what we felt this year. We're in construction. And so we felt a lot of things moved a little bit slower than we expected, but they didn't necessarily go away. Things tightened up, but it wasn't chaotic.
Hmm.
Uh, we saw layoffs across, multiple industries that slowed projects down, delays in funding and things like that. And so our year was challenging to navigate the the changes that were taking place. Um, and so in 2025, we've adjusted,
Hmm.
and I feel less pressure uh, than I felt previously. I think a lot of what I've learned is counterintuitive. That the less I'm involved, the more people will step up, and the better people do. So a big
Hmm.
thing I want to be true next year
Hmm.
is that I'm kind of around less.
Uh-huh.
We've built our team to be a little bit larger than the revenue that we're producing.
Uh-huh.
And I'm realizing that if I've got my hands in some of the things that I need to let go of, um, they're not going to go produce the revenue. They're not going to go do the things and step up and learn. And so I almost want to take a step back next year
Yeah.
in my
Isn't that
involvement.
interesting? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And,
the way to grow is to get out of the way of the growth.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to wrap my head around when, that has not been the norm
Right.
for me.
Well, and when you have the right team in place, people want to grow.
Hmm.
There are people that you can find who will do the bare minimum. I notice with a lot of the founders and business owners that I coach that they will kind of complain about their team not stepping up, not taking ownership, not whatever. But when you kind of unpack that, if you go back to who the owner was when they hired that person, they were a micromanager and the person sensed that. And it was like, yeah, this is exactly the kind of boss I want to kind of, I need, like you were like, I need to be hard on myself. There are people who, I need my boss to be hard on me. And
Yeah.
and that's not the right person going forward. And sometimes there will be this turnover
Hmm.
as an organization decides to step into something bigger. Sometimes people can come along for the ride, and sometimes they can't, and you need to
Yeah.
replace them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's kind of, I feel like we felt that a little bit with,
yeah.
we doubled in size
Mm.
in the last 24 months, over doubled in size in the last 24 months. And we experienced some of that turnover. And that's, I think you hit the nail on the head with what I just was trying to get to is, the new people I'm starting to see them fall into the habits of the old people. And it's
Oh
not because
wow.
It's
Yeah.
not because they're um, bad or not
Uh-huh.
willing to step up. It's because of me. It's
Interesting.
because
Yeah.
I'm starting to treat them the way that we treated them when we were half the size. We have
So
half.
you're kind of stepping into the old habit.
Yeah. And I've
Yeah.
got to step out of that habit. And part of that is I've got to step away. I have to be comfortable not being in the office. I have to be comfortable if I want to show up at 9 o'clock and go work out in the
Yeah.
morning. If I want to
Yeah.
show up at 10 o'clock, or if I want to take a longer lunch because I enjoy working out, I want to exercise my body and just be moving. I like
Uh-huh.
the person that I am when I
Yeah.
do those things.
Yeah.
Um, I like that. I enjoy that. And it was hard for me to grasp, well, if I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning
Mm.
with three little kids at home, then I've got to be the first one in the office, last one to leave. I need the people to see this is what I'm doing and I'm here and I'm going to support them. And
Yeah.
the reality is I've got a team where half the time I'm in the office and I'm like, what do I need to be doing?
Hmm.
I've got to find something to do. Um,
Mm.
and I struggle with the concept of not being of physically available,
Hmm.
physically there, right there, ready to go, ready when they
Hmm.
need me. And so what I
Yeah.
find is that I force myself into situations or force myself into scenarios that I don't need to be involved in. And so I need to step out more. I need to be away more and be
Uh-huh.
available still,
Uh-huh.
but not necessarily involved to the level that I thought I would need to be involved in.
Yeah. So let's translate that into something that feels a little more tangible for 2026. Like where do you want to, come up with a percentage goal? So if you doubled in the last 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
what would you like to do directionally in 2026, recognizing, yeah, this, of course there's uncertainty, of course you don't actually know, but just for the sake of thinking about, you're putting a stake in the ground and then coming back to, like, well, who do you need to be as a leader in order to create that, or get out of the way so your team can create that? Like, let's put a stake in the ground for 2026.
In what way specifically?
Whatever way you want, but some way tangible. Like, I want to grow 40%. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
making up numbers
Yeah.
here, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we want to grow about 10 to 15% next year. So
Uh-huh.
more nominal growth.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Underlying margins improve, or
with better margins. So
yeah.
we have five different revenue streams.
Okay.
And so that growth is coming from a smaller revenue stream, but a much higher margin.
Gotcha.
And so that we want to make a heavy focus on that, and that's an entire department in the
Uh-huh.
company.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we, we need to invest in them, but we also need to get out of their way and
Hmm.
help them make the decisions that they need to make when no one's looking. Be the leader that they know the decisions they need to make when nobody's around. They're going to
Yeah.
make the right decision.
Yeah.
Um, and that doesn't come from standing over their shoulder every single time that they're making a decision.
What does it involve saying no to that you're not saying no to right
Oh, I don't, I don't like to think about that.
now? Most people don't.
Yeah. What do I need to say no to? I think let me see if I'm going to go down the right path with this, because this is what pops in my head, and I know you
Okay.
like what pops in my head.
Yeah,
So what
let's play
pops
with
in my
that.
head is I don't know if it's something I need to say no to, but I think it's something I need to be conscious of. Started through this year to realize I let my ego get in the way.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is when there's a meeting that takes place that I used to be involved in and I don't get an update on that,
Uh-huh.
the way that I am creating in my head, I should get an update, not a way that I'm verbalizing. Um, I, I, I get a little upset.
Uh-huh.
And so when you say, what do I need to say no to? It feels like I need to say no to letting my emotional, um, I mean, it feels like my ego a little bit. Like
Yeah.
there are things as a business owner that you need to know, right? You
Mhm.
know, but I find that I catch myself getting a little upset for things that I do not need to know.
Right.
I don't need to be involved in. But I
Right.
go, well, I'm the owner of the company. I should be involved in that. I
Uh-huh.
should be aware of that.
Right.
I have not verbalized that to anybody. I've not told anybody that they need to keep me in the loop on those things. But I tend to check myself a few times going, why am I getting upset about this? You know?
Yeah.
And I think being quicker, for me, it's being quicker to just not get upset about it. Again, you see how that doesn't really answer like what do I need to say no to, but it's
Well, it's an interesting little side alley that we can go down that I think is a really important one. And you and I have spent some time talking about expectations versus agreements and how,
yes.
yeah, how they can, how we can really get in trouble as leaders because a lot of the things in our lives are expectations that we either haven't communicated at all
Yeah.
or have communicated, but we really don't have agreement. Like the other person really didn't buy into it. So yeah, I mean that's a great place to explore. Where can you have clearer agreements with your team about okay, so these, if I think about a pyramid, right? There's a very small number of things at the top of that pyramid that Michael Pickel needs to be involved in and have input and have the final say on. And
Yeah.
then there's more and more decisions and less involvement from you all the way down to at the bottom of that pyramid, you don't even need to know about it. And if you
Yeah.
can create agreements with your team around these are the types of things that not only do I not need to know, but if I ask you about them, I want you to say, Michael, you don't need to know, remember our agreement? You don't need to know about that. And
Hmm.
so you're like training yourself to your point of saying no. Maybe it's the bottom of that pyramid of like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I just don't need to spend any headspace on.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think part of it is we've got 30 employees,
Hmm.
and we're in a 5,000 square foot office.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when I say I need to be out more, I need to
Hmm.
be available. I just hear things. I see things. It's easy. We're still intimate to know
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Expectations versus agreements. That is that is help me again.
Hmm.
With the clarity on an expectation versus an agreement, because we've talked multiple times about this,
Yeah.
and um, how an agreement is not one way, as I
Correct.
recall.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, if you, let's say you're talking with your, let's just make up an example, just your salesperson, and you say, we need to grow 15% this year, and it needs to be in this type of product or this type of service because we make better margins on that. Um, you can say that, and most sales leaders get their goals dictated to them, right? And they think, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to do anything I can to get there. Or you can say, that's the starting point of the conversation. Look, sales leader, I'm going to hold you accountable for this. I want it to be something that feels like it's doable and it's a stretch. Like I don't want you to know the best goals are no, goals that you don't quite know how you're going to get there because it requires you to do something different. And that's where we learn and we grow and that whole, 10x is easier than 2x kind of idea.
Mhm.
but you're in conversation. And they're saying, well, in order to do that, I think I'm going to need another salesperson that's focusing on this area, or I'm going to need something, some other kind of resource. And then you're saying, okay, well, in order to give you that resource, we're going to need to cut back in this area. And so you're having this conversation around, okay, so I want you to deliver X. And you've said in order to do that, I need more Y, Z, and A. And I've said you need a little less B and C. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now we go do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
And
takes
you're
time,
still,
which is
yeah.
why people don't do it. And then
Yeah.
they complain, like, how could they not know that was their job? Like, what were they thinking? Like, that's a big key right there. If you ever say to yourself, what were they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have very good agreements with your people.
Right. Right. Because it's easy. It's easier. I handle more of the sales
Uh-huh.
on the team, and that's a great example because it is easier to just walk in and be like, "Hey, this is what we're going to go do next year."
Yeah.
No, you guys good with that? What are they going to say? No.
Right. Right.
Is a salesperson going to look at you and be like, "No,
And
we're
then
not."
they're going to walk out and they're going to roll their eyes and complain to each other about how you're being unreasonable. And, who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and then you can work through, um, like two-way accountability, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Because you're agreeing to something too. You're agreeing to a
yeah,
level of support, a level of resources.
yeah, yeah,
And then what will almost always happen at some point in this process is that something will end up different. And then at that point, you need the person will come to you, or you'll come to the person and say, I realized we agreed this. This has changed. Let's discuss this.
yeah, yeah.
And so you can always renegotiate an agreement.
Hmm. No, that's good. Yeah, that helps because I get caught often
Hmm.
in, just reverting back to expectations and
Right.
not coming to, "Hey, we're going to accomplish this together." I
Yeah.
say things like, "We're going to accomplish, I'm going to support you and I'm going to be here." But
Hmm.
they're probably glazing over with, "This is just being thrown on me." And
Yeah.
it feels like there's a conversation, but I don't necessarily feel like we're having a conversation. I feel like they are, but they may feel like, "This is just being thrown on me. You expect me to do these things."
Right.
And they are agreeing in, I don't know the term, agreeing in principle, but not necessarily buying in.
Right. They're like nodding their head, but they're not really, yeah,
Yeah.
really agreeing because there really hasn't been a conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think, well, I was enthusiastic and I smiled a lot and I was very encouraging and I was an inspirational leader.
Yeah.
And like they're looking at you like, I have no idea how we're going to do that.
Yeah. 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 No, I like that. That is a learned, practice, going to fail at it
Yeah, of course.
skill,
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because now that you're putting a lot less pressure on yourself, it's okay to fail, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
okay to
exactly.
not know the answers.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
That's what
good.
your team's there for. They're going to know a lot. If your team is a good team, they're going to know a lot more than you do.
And that is true and challenging
Yeah,
because this brings up a funny conversation. Are we okay with going down another rabbit hole?
of course.
So I had a realization last night.
Mm,
Um, I realized that I've been, in this industry for 10 years now, almost 10 years now.
hmm
And somehow I am one of the more seniored uh, experts in our field
Mm-hmm.
of of roofing,
Mm-hmm.
and on our team.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that they will know more, or they'll know more than you do, and
Yeah.
at times, um, I struggle with. We have a lot of new people, and
Mm-hmm.
managing new people who are
Mm-hmm.
new to an industry or new to a role, and I certainly don't know everything, but walking like not I don't want to dictate to them their role, their responsibility, their like how to do their job. I hired them because they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
I just need them good in our industry.
Right.
I find that I tend to dictate their role and what they do and what they should be doing.
Can you
Um,
give me an example of that, Michael?
um, Marketing. We'll say
Okay.
marketing.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, I have have worked through multiple marketing people on our
Mm-hmm.
staff.
Mm-hmm.
We handle all of our marketing in house, and I know the roofing, like how roofers will market.
Right.
How they'll market themselves, what they'll do,
Mm-hmm.
and I have really good people on staff that have way more marketing experience than I do,
Uh-huh.
and they're way more creative than I could ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is that I convince myself, well, they don't know how to market to roofing,
Uh-huh.
to the roofing industry.
This will never work with roofers.
They don't know how to market to
Yeah.
the roofing
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
and they are very good.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I limit them.
Uh-huh.
We talked about how we will put ourselves like we're thinking too small.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking too small because I'm thinking about this, and I'm trying to convince them, well, this is how we need to be doing it, and not letting their creativity blossom and grow
Right.
and flourish.
So is there a specific idea that someone has brought to you from a marketing perspective that you've said, no, I don't think this is going to work in the roofing industry?
Oh, um, no, I think it would be more about design and creative.
Uh-huh.
It's well, let me, now that I say no, I
Uh-huh.
wonder if they're not bringing things because I have been
Oh, huh.
closing off too much.
Yeah.
I
Like if
wonder
he's
if they
not going to
have,
go for this, he's never going to go for this really cool big idea that we have that is,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then what do? I sit there and I go, why aren't they like they're really creative? Why aren't they bringing any good ideas in? Why aren't they challenging a new way, a new method? Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, and then we talk about this, and then the cycle starts to come in
Uh-huh.
that we talked about at the beginning. I go, I'm just a bad leader. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm doing such a bad job.
Uh-huh.
I go into that, beat yourself up mode of,
Yeah.
well, all of this makes sense. I'm saying that I'm limiting their creativity,
Uh-huh.
and I hired them to be really creative, and
Yeah.
that's on me. That's on me.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a theme. And I think it's something you said very early in the conversation, but it keeps coming up in different ways, which is how do you get out of their way?
How do you get out of their way?
Yeah. So the marketing folks, if you're saying
Mhm.
no to everything, and therefore they're not bringing you their best ideas because they assume you're going to say no, you're getting in the way.
Yeah, yeah, or
And what I'm wondering, um, is, can you create something? My the guy who trained me as a coach, the late Doug Silsby, he had this concept that he called a safe to fail experiment. So it's like, where can you experiment with an idea that you don't think is going to work, but the marketing people are really excited about, and give them, enough constraints that, first of all, if you give them enough that if it succeeds, you're going to know it succeeded. But you put enough constraints on it that if it fails miserably, you're still fine.
Yeah.
And how do you set up those kinds of safe to fail experiments, whether it's marketing, or a particular type of, could be estimating or project management or whatever, right? How do you let people feel ownership around something they feel passionate about,
Yeah.
and say, yeah, let's give that a try?
Yeah. It can be scary to do that. I think it's the fear of failure. It's the fear
Uh-huh.
of failure. I'm going to put a plan in place that it's safe to fail, but yet I'm terrified that we're going to fail.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, you put constraints around it, and you think of those things, but it ultimately, I think this is where my head naturally goes, is ultimately that's gonna cost us money, and
If it fails.
if it fails, and you've got to be comfortable with, but what if it doesn't? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What if it
We're
doesn't?
we're much more, we're wired. Just the fact that you and I are here means that our ancestors didn't get killed on the savannah, right? Like,
Yeah,
we're wired to overweight fear.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's paradoxical because you got into you're a business owner.
Right.
You,
Right.
that is massive exposure and risk to fail. And
Uh-huh.
you did it because you didn't do it because it was a sure thing.
Right.
You don't put we're going to grow 20% next year, 10% next year because it's a sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's funny how we build these. Well, I'm okay with failing here,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not okay with failing here, and I need to make sure that this is protected. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It does, and it assumes a level of control that usually we don't actually have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my experience is, the more we try to control things, like, I'll tell people, you can have control or you can have growth. Like, those are the ends of the spectrum. If you want 100% control, I guarantee you're not going to grow.
Yeah.
Like, the process of growth is by its very nature uncontrolled. I mean, look out in the wild. Look at, plants that take over, right? But can you build a trellis? Can you do little things to kind of keep them constrained a little bit? Yes. But that energy to grow, whether it's a business or a person and their leadership capabilities, I mean, that's just inherent.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
not want to grow. We can
Right.
be scared of it.
Yeah.
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 I feel like a lot of there is a lot of connectivity between what we've talked about and ultimately me not wanting to give up control.
Mm.
I feel like that's what I'm coming to in a lot of this is there's there's some control that I'm not giving up
Hmm.
that is ultimately, to your point, holding us back.
Yeah.
Um, and again, thinking too small. you
Yeah.
know, if
Yeah.
I'm not giving up some control, and I like the way you phrase that with making it safe to fail, putting parameters around things.
Mm.
It's not that you just say, okay, go do whatever you want, go
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
That's easy to do because then you don't have to take the responsibility of it. You can just, say this is, um, just put all the onus on somebody else if it fails.
Mm,
And
hmm.
that's not good leadership.
No,
You know?
no.
You
It's like
don't want
we tried this together and it worked or it didn't work, and here's what we learned from it. I mean,
yeah,
that's the other thing that people talk about is even the failure done well, you learn from it and
you
you try something else. Right? And sometimes that failure is even more valuable than if you succeeded.
how often do you see um, businesses that grow or have gone through growth and the owners feel like I'm just tired of failing. I'm
Hmm.
tired of I'm tired of learning. I like in the sense of that
Yeah,
concept that is I just feel like we've just been learning.
yeah,
I'm ready to be there, to be at the next level, the next phase. We've just had a lot of learning, which is we've failed a lot
yeah.
in multiple areas. And I think that's probably burnout, you know.
Uh-huh.
It feels like burnout, just like what am I doing this for? Do you see people hit that wall of struggle as it
Yeah,
relates to that?
I do think there's a really interesting self-management point there, like how much we're trying to do the two things at the same time. One is if we want to grow, we have to be willing to put ourselves in a situation where failure is possible. And the other is, you were talking about coming out of your 2 days and how you were just more relaxed and putting less pressure on yourself. So how do you build your own uh, capacity to deal with uncertainty? Because I'll tell you, the fear of failure doesn't get less as your company grows, it gets more
Yeah,
because it feels like there's more at stake. The bigger you are, the more people are counting on you, the more employees you have, the more families, all of this stuff. And people will get so stuck in their heads around, well, if I make one wrong move, then suddenly instead of 30 people losing their jobs, it's 500 people losing their jobs or 1,000 people losing their jobs. And it can become crippling if you don't build that capacity just in your own system to deal with uncertainty, which is just the nature of things to begin with.
yeah.
It's not like the uncertainty goes up somehow. The uncertain it's always uncertain. I mean,
No.
in March of 2020,
Hmm.
we were March 1, we're 2 weeks from a global shutdown.
Yeah,
No one had any inkling
yeah,
of what was to come. And yet we dealt with it. We got through it.
yeah.
And that's always true.
And where do you find, because I've definitely felt that. I felt like, well, if we get to this level, there will be um we'll know what to do and we won't fail as much, or the failures will be smaller.
No, failures are
They
going to
get
be bigger.
they absolutely get bigger. And I
Yeah,
mean I think of like how many, like, that is just in ignorance on my part of assuming, this is the way it will be. I can plan my life out and we
well,
will
we
grow
we assume
internally.
there's some end state that where
Yeah,
everything's okay. It's like, well, if I
yeah,
can finally get to this point, I think it's called the end of history fallacy or something like that. That at some point, like we've developed all we're going to develop. Our business is exactly what everything runs smoothly. No clients complain. We win every contract, and wow, things are just perfect. And it doesn't happen.
yeah. And that can be disappointing, and that
Hmm.
can lead to a crisis
Yeah.
almost, as a as a way in which you thought all of these things would take place, and then you get there. We talked about goals versus uh, kind of the infinite game, like goals
Yeah.
versus oh, I'm losing that term. The term you
Yeah, what was that? The Infinite Game, the Simon Sinek, Just Cause, the Just
just
Cause.
cause goals
Yeah,
versus just
the
cause.
thing that you're gonna
Yeah,
spend your whole life trying to do this and trying to change
yeah,
it, and you're never gonna get there, but it's worth the effort.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that you know, I almost got stuck on a just cause
Hmm.
for a period of time this year, just obsessed with. I've always
Yeah.
done goals. A just cause is going to fix my problems, but
Right.
that didn't fix problems.
Yeah.
I'm trying to create a goal to fix a problem,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
Well,
but
and remember, if I can poke at you a little bit, do you remember why we determined you wanted a just cause?
uh, no, not off the top of my head. What was it?
So you wanted, I think where we ended up was that you wanted a just cause because you thought people would follow the just cause, and you
That's
didn't
right.
have enough confidence that they would follow you as a leader.
That's right. That's right.
So it's like, here's this thing that's better than me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I was feeling that I was not um, I wasn't leading. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if
That I'm young and I only have so much experience and I don't, I don't know how to do this.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And we talked a few months ago about how freeing it was realizing, for me personally, realizing I'm leading no matter what.
Yeah.
People are following me,
Hmm.
and if I'm not leading the way that I want to be leading, I'm leading that way.
Yeah.
Therefore, just start doing the things you want to be doing. I
Right.
mean, that's way more freeing. That's
Uh-huh.
way more freeing than sitting there going, I'm not the leader that I want to be.
Hmm.
And I'm not the leader because of all the things that I've created as to why. And I don't feel now at this point that I'm trying to chase a dollar amount or a size of employee, or you know I'm just doing more things that I want to be doing, and
Right.
I'm uh, doing less of the things that I don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
And as simple as we talked about working out earlier, but also as simple as I don't like when I speak a certain way, so I'm going
Mm,
to speak a different way.
mm,
In the sense of I don't like the way that my tone was in that,
uh-huh,
that way to my wife or to an
uh-huh.
employee. So, I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to be conscious of that. And
Hmm.
it may still come up, but it's not crippling me,
Right.
because if in 10 years I'm still doing that, I'll beat myself up and say I failed,
Yeah.
but if for the next 10 years I work on it, I bet you I'll be a whole lot better at it.
I think that self-compassion is really important because let's play out the on 12/31/2026 example, because I like to ask people about their future self, and like what is their future self doing that you're not doing today? Like, what are the habits? Um what are the routines? What's your daily routine like? What do you get involved in? What do you don't get involved in? And then people get really hung up on the idea that they have to do all that today,
Mhm.
instead of like, no, I know the direction I'm heading. And so with that in mind, yeah, I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to adjust, and I'm going to, if I miss a workout today, like, okay, I missed a workout today. What am I going to do tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, if you would have asked me at the beginning of this year, which I think you probably did,
Uh-huh.
you know, um, I would feel like I felt like I was really down in the dumps.
Hmm.
I felt like I was all these things I want to be doing and I'm not doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've talked, and I started to think, if you were to ask me right now, Michael, what are the things that you want to be doing next year? I Right now, I'd say, because of so much that we've done this year,
Yeah.
I really like what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And now my mindset is, well, what if I did that? Do you think I'd like that?
Mm-hmm.
What if I worked 4 days a week? Would I
Mm.
like 4 days a week? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
And it's more trial and error as opposed to do or do not.
Right. I'm going to work
You
4 days
know?
a week this week and see what happens.
And
Which
so,
is another way of saying that is I'm going to take this day off.
right,
I'm going to be
right,
totally unavailable. I'm going to go do something I enjoy doing, or I'm going to just create some space for myself for the next thing to pop up, which it will. And those things don't pop up unless we give them space.
right, right, right. Yeah. I mean, I can compare all the things that I see and I create in good leadership in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not doing them, I'm failing.
Mm.
Or I can see if those things are for me and if I like them, because uh, just because a leader that I know really well journals every single day doesn't
Right.
mean that journaling is going to work for me. And it
Right.
doesn't mean that I'm a bad leader if I'm not journaling every single day.
Right.
I may only want to journal 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
That may be enough for me. That may help me.
Yeah.
Or I may find that in journaling, there's really something else. Maybe it's just going and taking a walk. I
Uh-huh.
just need to take a walk. I just need to go drive. That's how I clear my head.
You
Uh,
go for a run. I know that's a
go
big
for a
one for
run.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's been the most exciting thing for me this year. Has really been that if you were to ask me, well, what are you doing? What are you not doing that you want to be doing? It's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a whole lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I've only realized that because I'm not putting myself in a negative light of
Yeah.
I'm not doing all the things that I should be doing.
Uh-huh. So let's go back a little bit to the how am I getting in the way piece. What's
Mhm.
something that you like to do where if you're honest with yourself, you're really not the best person on your team to be doing that thing?
Solving problems that
Mm-hmm.
arise on our production team.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have a project going and it's construction,
Yeah.
problems come up. You're never
Yeah.
going to have a project that is absolutely perfect to the T the way you wrote it up. I find that I go into, well, I have the most experience, so
Yeah.
therefore I
Yeah.
know because I've seen more.
Right.
I'm not the right person
Uh-huh.
to
You're getting
solve.
if you're solving the problem, you're getting in the way of your team
Hmm.
learning, growing,
Hmm.
solving it their way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would 100% be the one. And if I solve all the problems, what I'm going to ultimately create is people who solve problems my way, which may not be the right way
Mm-hmm.
every time. And two, they will be very dependent on me to solve the problems,
Yeah.
which is going to keep us from growing.
Yeah. So think of a person on your team who is maybe the person you want to grow into that leadership capacity, take on that
Mm,
responsibility for maybe not solving the problems, but leading solving the problems.
yeah.
Can you create an agreement with that person and have that person hold you accountable when you start to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Assuming they see the same thing, right? It's like, yeah, Michael, you are getting in the way and you're kind of a pain. Because it's one thing to say that and not ever share it with anybody. it's really hard to like when it's so tempting. It's like, oh, but this one, man, I've got such a great solution here, and I know the team will appreciate me for offering this and whatever. It's hard to hold yourself back without someone else saying, Michael, we had this conversation. We've got
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
We'll let you know what we come up with. And maybe the agreement even is, at a certain threshold and you can decide where that is. Like they're going to bounce it off of you and see if you have anything to add. Not, oh, I would have done it completely differently, start over to like, yeah, well, what if you fine tuned it this way?
Yeah.
So you can still offer that experience, but you're also encouraging them to do, 90% of it, 95.
Yeah. 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 You've got to, I've learned in our meetings, and it's very freeing to have the conversation with you and verbalize and talk. And it is much better and even more freeing um, when I'll go have the conversation with somebody else about something you and I have already talked about.
Yeah.
Just because I've had, yeah, and I think part of that is naturally we want to just vent
Hmm.
about things, and then uh, we go, okay, that's good. I mean, people do that in the office all the time. They'll go talk to business owner or go talk to their leadership team and feel like, okay, well, I talked to the leadership team about it, and then you go talk to the people that you need to go talk to,
Right.
and get better from there. Sometimes you don't, and then you find that you never went and created that agreement, or um, you never actually solved the problem.
Right.
Feel like you did because you talked about it. Um, that's
Well,
been
and talk about powerful stuff. We're talking about, agreements and expectations between you and your team, but agreements and expectations between your team and your customers. Wow.
yeah,
How
yeah,
it's really easy to avoid those difficult conversations with a
yeah.
customer. The change in scope or something didn't go as you expected, or it's like we got to fix it before we tell them about it, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
as opposed to, yeah, so here's what we're thinking. We wanted to make sure you were on board with that and having a
Yeah.
clear agreement. I mean, not many contractors or construction industry people do that well.
Right.
And the people who do it well really differentiate themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder too how many people think they are doing it. Like I think I have agreements in place, but it's really just an expectation.
Yeah.
You know, it's really just that, well, yeah, they expect that I'll call them. And of course
Uh-huh.
I call them because that's just who I am. But you really have not agreed with that client or that general contractor, or that supplier, that vendor, that
Mhm.
this is how we're going to operate, and we're going
Right.
to do this together. And this is what we're going to, what we're going to agree to.
Right. And we're going to listen to you, and you're going to feel heard, and you're going to feel like we're partnering together. Like all of those things are
Yeah.
available if you do this,
Yeah.
and really do it well.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So, anything else that you're thinking about, like more from the perspective of like, who do I want to be as a leader? I mean, you've gone in pretty deep here. We've got a lot on your to-do list, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add as we wrap this conversation up, where it's like, yeah, if I could only be this way, come from this place, that would change everything.
I there probably is.
Uh-huh.
There probably is for sure. Um, but I really cannot express enough the value of what has transpired this year for me to sit here at the end of the year
Hmm.
and feel like, yeah, there's more that I need to go do. There's more that
Yeah.
I can still get so much better.
Yeah.
But to sit here right now and go, I, I feel I feel less, um, captive to my own inabilities.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I feel free to explore. I think, we talked about fear of failure. I think that's an obvious one that I could look at and say, man, I really want to be a leader that is not afraid to fail,
Right.
but does it in a way that encourages and doesn't close off. Like, I would
Right.
love for that to be true next year.
Well,
But
and maybe I just want to reframe that a little bit, Michael, because I think there is this idea that we can be fearless. And I don't think that ever happens. I think what we can be is courageous,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
just realize fear is part of the process. It's like, I don't know
yeah,
how this is going to work out, but boy, it'd be really cool. It'd be really cool if it did. And
yeah,
I'm willing to try.
yeah, yeah. Be more courageous for
Yeah.
sure.
But
And
I want you to take a moment and just celebrate how far you've come. Because it really has been, maybe not the business result you would have wanted, but just personally and for your team, you guys have come a long way.
yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I think it has been a a huge encouragement, a huge blessing to be able to walk through this with, with you. You
Mm,
know, we talked about the friendship that we've developed, this year,
yeah.
and just how exciting the future looks. At 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 my age, and so
Hmm.
I really, it's not lost on me what
Yeah.
has transpired this year. I still don't think I fully grasped it
Uh-huh.
and been able to appreciate it the way that I will, in a decade or two.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Because these things will compound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on and being willing to be a little bit of a guinea pig here. And as you think about this conversation, what's one thing you want to make sure you hold on to going forward?
I really don't want to lose sight of how far I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I've come,
Mm-hmm.
and how far I can still grow.
Yeah.
That I'm never really going to be the person that I want to be. I'm going to be the person that I am,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be, like you said, be courageous. You know, I think that's great.
If anyone has any questions and wants to reach out, like what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I think shoot me an email,
Okay.
would be the best way.
Yeah, and
Um,
we'll make sure you've got a little like bio, and I'll put your email in the show notes so people will be able to reach out.
yeah, that'd
Um,
be great.
thank you, thank you for going deep in this conversation, and for all of you watching this, I'm gonna try to jump you up into the queue, Michael, so that this is maybe the New Year's resolution edition of the Pick Now podcast. But hopefully that's been helpful for you. Reach out anytime, and we'll see you next time on the Pick Now podcast. Thanks.